Hello, everyone, and welcome to Big Rock Moto. Thank you so much for tuning in today. In today's video, we're going to do the long-term test introduction for the 2024 Suzuki V-Strom 800DE Adventure. All right, first thing I want to say is really a huge thank you to Suzuki North America or Suzuki USA for allowing me to have this bike for the next 6 months to do a long-term evaluation. Since I've done the two main Japanese competitors to this midsize bike, the Yamaha Tenere 700 and the Honda Transalp 750, I figured it was only fair to do a similar test for the V-Strom 800DE. So thank you so much, Suzuki, for making this possible. I think the 800DE is really interesting because if you think about it, if you look at it compared to the T7 and to the Transalp, it has the most suspension travel among those three. It has the largest fuel tank at 5.3 gallons or 20 liters. It has arguably, I think, the best electronics package. It has the best TFT display, and it has an easily accessible air filter under the seat. So with all those things in mind, I just am wondering, I wonder, is this actually maybe sort of the all-around best bike between these three close competitors? I don't know, but I hope that we're going to be able to at least somewhat answer that over the next 6 months. Let's talk about the specs and just give you an overview really quick. Now, I've done an in-depth review and a first ride video on the 800DE, the standard model 800DE. I think it was that about a year and a half ago? My memory's failing me already. But anyway, so let's talk about pricing and models real quick. So this is the Adventure model for 2024. I really like the new color scheme they've gone with. It's kind of hard to see on the camera, but it's really nice, like matte finishes. And then you've got the yellow highlights. And then with the gold wheels, I think this really is actually very attractive. I really like it. So for pricing on the 800DE for 2024, the standard 800DE is $11,600. And then the Adventure model, or what this bike is $13,000. So it's a $1,400 increase over the standard bike. Now, what does the Adventure model come with for that extra $1,400? Well, I'll show you right now. It comes with these big engine crash bars or fairing crash bars here that are quite substantial. It comes with this very substantial metal skid plate down here, which I actually really like. It also comes with these really nicely designed and very high quality aluminum adventure style metal panniers. So they're 37 liters per side, so a lot of capacity. They fit pretty, relatively tight to the bike. Really nice mounting hardware, so you get that. Now, I think if you look at the luggage, if that's something that's useful to you, and if you price out what that would cost by itself, and you price in the skid plate and the crash bars and the cost to install all this stuff, I think that $1,400 is incredibly reasonable and actually a really good value if you are to think about it and analyze it. Sorry, if you are to think about it and analyze it. So I really like this. Now, I won't use the aluminum panniers for all the riding that I'm going to do. Some of the off-road stuff I probably will put on soft panniers instead. But for road riding and touring and some light off-road, hard panniers are super convenient. So I like that. Now, some specs real quick. So the bike, the standard bike without the extra accessories that are on this one weighs 507 pounds or 229 kilograms, which is about 50 pounds heavier, which is about 20 kilograms or so heavier than a Tenere 700 or a Transalp. So it does kind of have that disadvantage on the spec sheet, but my experience in testing it from before and having owned the other two bikes, the T7 and the Transalp, this feels to me lighter than the Tenere 700. It feels like the weight is lower and it just feels like a lighter bike. It's also easier to lift than a T7. However, compared to a Transalp, I think it feels a little bit heavier than that, although not too much. So, spec sheets are one thing, but real world can be kind of another. Seat height is 33.7 inches or 856 millimeters. So, pretty reasonable for a bike with a 220 millimeter or 8.7 inches of fully adjustable suspension and some pretty decent ground clearance. It has more ground clearance than the Transalp, but maybe not quite as much as the T7. And then for power, we're looking at the parallel twin engine. This is a great motor. If you've seen other reviews of this bike or other bikes with this motor, it's really phenomenal. 83 horsepower and 58 foot-pounds of torque. So it's right in there with the horsepower of the Transalp. It's definitely more power than you get on a T7. And I think it has the most torque among all three. Pretty cool. I really like the engine. It's very smooth and very tractable. Kind of looking around the bike a little bit, you know, I'm not going to do everything because we've already done a full review of the bike before, but this bike has all the extra stuff. I like the cargo rack in the back. I like the LED lighting. The tires are going to get changed out. You can see I took the rubbers. One thing I've already done is I took the rubber things off the foot pegs for better traction off-road. These are going to get changed out too. These are not, you know, yeah, for off-road, that's not going to work. I moved the windshield up into the highest position and I put on my little deflector. I'm going to play around with that because I'm taking off on a 2,000-mile trip on this bike to ride the Northern California BDR backcountry discovery route in about a week. So I'm kind of crunched for time to try to get this thing ready. And I'm going to be doing a bunch of upgrades here in the next episode, or accessories. But I want to try to sort out the wind management to see if I can get a little bit quieter environment there for my helmet. LED lights up front, of course, fully adjustable suspension, which I like. And coming around here, I've got my quad lock on here already. I'm going to mount some sort of a navigation here. I'm probably going to go with the Carper Ride tablet to kind of test that out more, but we'll see. I also have a Zumo XT2. We'll put a tank bag on here. You know, I like the fuel on this bike. You've got 5.3 gallons or 20 liters. So you've got about a 250 mile or 400 kilometer fuel range. That's phenomenal. Really love the TFT on this bike. It is just, I think, the best in class and one of the best in motorcycling right now. It's so bright and legible. It's so easy to use to configure your traction control, your drive motor, and your ABS. Really, really great display, great controls. We don't have, you know, a lot of luxury features, like we don't have heated grips. We don't have things like that. Those are accessories you can get, but of course, I don't have a lot of that stuff. I'm also trying to kind of experiment with some of my riding setup for this upcoming Northern California backcountry discovery route ride. It's going to be 2,000 miles and it's mostly off-road and it's going to be really hot. So I'm kind of trying to plan ahead for that. And it's actually hot in my house right now too, here in Southern California. So I'm wearing a cooling vest that I got from Revzilla. I bought it, you know, I was like, okay, I'm going to try that, because a lot of people said, when I talk about the heat, a lot of people said, hey, try those cooling vests. I had one like 10, 15 years ago and I just never got back to it. So I'm going to try it today when we go on a ride. And then I'm wearing the Climb Baja suit just because I find that it's the most ventilated for hot weather and it has great protection for abrasion impact. And then I'm also testing the new Arai XD5 helmet, which I do like better than the XD4, although not in every way, but I do basically like it. And I've got to kind of get some of my camera setups and things dialed in because I'm going to be filming the BDR expedition. So let's do this. Let's go just take a quick ride on the bike and just get some early impressions.
All right, riding the V-Strom 800. You know, it's actually really nice to get back on this bike after, I guess, a year or two it's been since I tested this. Was it last year or the year before? I don't know when this came out, but I really genuinely like this thing. And like, here's the deal, you know, look at everything you get. The package you get for like 11 or 12 grand or whatever, or 13 grand if you want the luggage and stuff that this has. I mean, it really offers a lot. And I'm going to be showing some really cool, easy accessories. Like I'm going to be putting on cruise control, which is only $300 for actual electronic cruise control. That's going to be fantastic. So stay tuned for that. But I really think once you, let's go up here. It's a little bit better to talk. This bike is easy to ride. It's so smooth and easy to ride, but it's got good capabilities. It has great power, great brakes. I love this dash. I just can't tell you how much I like this dashboard. It's got, man, it pulls so cleanly and so strong from like, let's lug it down to, yeah, like 2,500 RPM. Man, that is such a good power plant, such a good motor, great transmission. The suspension is softly sprung. It's a little bit soft, but it has a nice action to it, and it has pretty good travel. Very comfortable ride. The wind protection is decent. I liked it. They also gave us a GPS mount up here. I mean, really, all you need is maybe a few accessories, add the cruise control, which we're going to do, and maybe respring the bike for heavier springs, you know, if you're going to ride off-road especially. And then I think you would just have a class-leading bike for not a whole lot of money, plus you get the reliability and build quality and just overall, like, you know, I guess reliability of a V-Strom, which they're just legendary for. I think this would be a good bike for people who are touring a lot, putting a lot of miles on their bike, or doing around the world type traveling or international travel where you need something really reliable. So what else about the V-Strom? So yeah, for like between $11,000 to $13,000, brand new for one of these. I mean, the thing is, okay, my 1300 GS was $31,000 by the time I got out the door. That's insane. You could buy almost 3 of these for one GS, and that just doesn't make any sense. Like from the GS perspective, like why does that bike cost that much when you can get this for 12 grand? Really great quick shifter too. The where there's a lot of brake dive. I mean, need to tighten up my compression clickers a little bit. Man, this thing is powerful, and the quick shifter is great. So yeah, I'm super happy to be back on this bike. And you know, it strikes me with these bars here, we could put like some nice highway pegs, you know, for our legs. We could also mount some really cool lights. It's a great place to mount stuff like that, or maybe a little bag to keep some stuff when you're on a trip. So I don't know, I'm super jazzed to be on this bike, and honestly, riding it right now makes me kind of question why I even still have my GS. I mean, I love the GS, I really do, but this thing is really good for the money. And of course, I mean, let's be honest, I'm not paying for this right now for the next 6 months, so I'm in a privileged position to have this to ride basically for free for the next 6 months. And I could literally sell my GS and just use this as my adventure bike. This thing is that good. I mean, I wouldn't miss the, you know, the electronic suspension, the electric windshield, the extra power, some of that stuff, but this thing's pretty darn good. All right, to ride the V-Strom off-road just a little bit, you know, I'm going to be changing the tires and a bunch of stuff before I do the BDR. I'm trying to remember how the stuff works here. So traction control, let's change that to gravel. Let's try the gravel traction control. We'll leave that. And then ABS, how do I turn that? Okay, there's ABS off rear. So 2 is street mode. 1 is off-road ABS where it's still active on the back, so it just is less intrusive, and then you can turn rear ABS off. So why don't we actually try number 1 and see how that is. One thing I was noticing about this bike is that I tend to short shift it. It's got so much good low-end power. I just can't get over how good the power plant is. Like, it just has such a broad spread of power, even from a very, very low RPM. The Transalp, you kind of needed to rev the motor to get much out of it. And it wasn't a bike you really short shifted around, but this bike is. It reminds me of kind of like a combination of the T7 motor and the Transalp motor. In fact, this whole bike kind of reminds me of sort of if you took the good things about the T7 and the good things about the Transalp and kind of combined them into one bike. I kind of feel like that's maybe what this bike is. And I really shouldn't say this right now, but I'm just going to tell you how I honestly feel, because I've tested all these bikes before, right? I do feel that the V-Strom 800DE is the best bike among these 3. Now, if you want to start comparing it to, I mean, it's a whole nother discussion if you want to compare it to a Tuareg 660, because for $1,000 more than a V-Strom 800D, you can get a Tuareg, and that is a higher performing bike in just about every way. However, it doesn't have the Suzuki dealer network, the Suzuki reliability, so that's going to be a big factor. Anyway, we'll talk more about that stuff later. But the V-Strom is a comfortable bike to cruise on all day, and that's really important to me because, you know, I have health issues and I struggle with certain things, and so having a bike that's more comfortable, you know, it doesn't roast my legs with the heat and has a comfortable seat and kind of a soft suspension, which this does. It just soaks everything up. I really, really gel with this bike. I don't gel with most of the test bikes that when I usually get them off the truck and start testing them, but I remember when I first rode this bike 1 or 2 years ago, I immediately gelled with it, and I'm getting that same feeling right now. It's just super easy to ride, and it's just gentle, and I don't know, I really, really like it. I'm just staying in second gear. You can lug all the way down to idle in second gear, and then it just pulls up so smooth. It's just Suzuki, you know, man, when they want to do something, they really can do a good job. So.
Well, that was fun. And I got to say, this cooling vest thing, man, that thing works well. My question is, if you guys out there use these, how do you keep them hydrated, like on a trip? Do you go to like a gas station and use the sink and like kind of, because you got to soak it in water to kind of rehydrate it. Anyway, let me know about that. But you know, getting back to the V-Strom, so when I rode the V-Strom 800 last time, it was one of those rare bikes that I test that I'm like, wow, this really is way better than I thought it was going to be. And I have the same feeling again today. So maybe even more so. And I think that's really notable considering I test a lot of really expensive, nice motorcycles. Not to say the V-Strom isn't nice, but for the price you pay and everything you're getting here, wow, I'm pretty happy. So I'm really happy to be doing this for the next 6 months. Now, I have episode 2 and 3. So episode 2, I think, is going to be getting it adventure ready, you know, tires, hand guards, maybe switching out to soft bags. Although I have to say these hard bags are kind of nice. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Should I use hard luggage or soft luggage for the BDR? Let me know. Doing some other things. Oh, the cruise control. We're going to have a dedicated episode on the cruise control. That's going to be fantastic for $300. Electronic cruise. I mean, gosh, that's going to make this bike. That's the only thing this bike needs. Well, there's maybe a couple things. Cruise control, maybe a little bit stiffer springs and the suspension. I don't know how we're going to do that. And then the better tires, which I'm going to do actually, I think today, once I edit this video. So thanks for watching this, and let me know, what would you like to see out of this review series? If there's particular questions you have, or things you'd like me to cover, things you'd like me to do, or if you're an owner of this bike, what do you want me to know about it? And I'm going to go and join up some of the owners groups and things like that to kind of see what's happening with all the owners out there around the world. So, but from what I've seen, I think people seem to be pretty happy with this bike. My thing is, I can't really find anything wrong with it, or I usually look for things to complain about, but that just, there's not much to complain about here. So I don't know. It's kind of like, you know, like a student in school who gets like all B pluses on their report card. Like everything's a B plus, like in every way. Like I don't really, not the best in the world, but everything's kind of good. So that's kind of how I feel about it so far. But maybe things will change. But we're going to put a few thousand miles on it and see how it goes. Thank you so much for watching. Ride safe, and I'll see you out there.